Hello, everyone. We're live for a chat and a mailbag, but this isn't the start of the show. You have to go to the descriptions if you're not watching live, and it will be the first timestamp, the first link that will take you to the flying helmet going and me saying, "We live F1." It will be that. That's what you'll see. But we are going to waffle for a little bit because I need to catch up with Chris, who I haven't seen for a while. Chris Stevens is here. Hey, Chris. Now you say things.
Hey, Spanners.
You say
Sorry.
stuff.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute my my Discord.
Oh, so funny. Right, everybody in the Patreon Discord at Chris right now, and you'll see the issue.
No, don't do it.
And
don't do it.
And then you'll have the power to actively ruin the show at any point by @ing Chris. In fact, I didn't realize you're in. Oh, here we go, Chris. There you go. I've just added you.
Can I change the sound? No.
So it didn't. I've just tagged you and it didn't go off. So I think you're all right.
Okay.
Chris, why so much beard? You're. I've never known you. When I first met you, both you and I were hairless, and some people
very
would
clean
argue
shaven.
that my beard is not very beardy anyway. But a little while ago, it got quite bushy, and because I've been losing weight, it's going off. I can hear it in the back.
Yeah, I think it's because I've tapped out of the app. So if I just leave it, if I stay clicked into the thing, it shouldn't go off. Hopefully.
Go on, keep tagging him. I say just that's Chris's tech issue, and we should humiliate him with 1,000 tags.
I don't know. Why is the Discord settings so difficult?
They are. I do find Discord settings very easy for our patrons to understand. So support us at patreon.com/MissedApex in our great flawless Patreon forum. But yeah, if I zoom on me for a second, yeah, it was really bushy here. And I've gone from like nearer 13 stone last year. Well, some of that I was lifting. I was doing a lot of lifting. So I've gone right down. I'm like 11 now, 11 stone 11. And I thought, man, my face is looking a little skinnier. I can shave. So I shaved down a little bit like this, like to that. And I said to my daughter, I met her in town. I was like, hey, what do you think? My face is like thinner now. So I did this. And she said, what did she say? She said, oh, we'll talk about it in 3 weeks when it's grown back. That's what she said to me. That's
hard.
She just said, you're not handsome enough. She said, you're not handsome enough to shave like ever.
Nothing
apparently.
Like the brutality of teenage girls.
I know. Yeah. Well, no, but she has this opinion where she said to me last time I shaved, you don't look like a dad. And that's what she said. Doesn't help.
Is that good?
Because I look so youthful. That's why. You'll be all right if you shave. So why so much beard for you?
Yeah, right. So ever since I came back from Monza about a week and a half ago, the battery in my beard trimmer died, and every morning I picked it up to shave, and they're gone, oh, the battery's dead. And then I get on with the rest of my morning routine. By the time I get to the end of it, I've forgotten to grab my charger and put it, put the razor on charge. So that's why it is currently the way that it is. But straight after this show, I am going to be giving it a good trim and a neaten up.
Why, Chris? Why specifically today?
Specifically today because I'm going on a little date tonight. Little drinks. Right.
So it's been a while since I've been single, and so I am curious. I have some questions about modern dating. The last date I went on was in 2006. So
you don't take your wife out for dates?
No, I guess a first date. date. I'm just by the way, I'm just checking that the live stream can see and hear us. Everything looks like it's functioning. Chris, I can hear sound coming through. But yeah, yeah. So obviously, my wife was the last first date.
You would hope.
You would hope so, wouldn't you? But actually, I could expand on that story, but I shan't here. But I never really used to go on dates. I'd already met her on a night out. So our first date wasn't our first encounter. We had just met while we were out. We'd had a lovely time, exchanged numbers, and then spoken on the phone and followed up with a date. Whereas now, I guess, like, do people meet people in bars anymore?
Sometimes. I mean, I actually recently approached 2 women in a bar.
Right.
And not for me. You do the classic thing of like, my friend thinks you're.
Oh yeah, I'm not the sort of creep that would talk to strange women in a bar, but my friend.
No, I loved it. I love talking to strangers in bars, not just women. But I would. But I went over and I did the whole like, hey, my friend over there thinks you're really cute. And then we sort of chatted for a little bit, got the number, and she said, "Oh, this doesn't happen anymore, does it? It just doesn't happen."
Yeah.
And I went, "Well, what a shame! What a shame! We've forgotten how to interact as people in person."
Well, there was a gay guy on TikTok, and he said, like, as a gay guy with female friends, some advice to straight men was, a lot of my female friends say it's such a shame nobody talks to us anymore. No, men don't come up and talk to us anymore. And a lot of my friends say it's so creepy when men come up to you and you're just trying to have a quiet night out with your friends. So, he ended with, do with that information whatever you want. And then that was the end of the TikTok.
Exactly whether the approach is charming or alarming is purely based on how attractive they think you are.
So it was, I think it was Conan O'Brien and Judd Apatow on the Conan O'Brien podcast. And they were talking about how, because they're old now, their mere existence is creepy. So just standing on an escalator in a mall, you're a creepy guy instantly, just because you're old and disgusting looking.
Hello, my dear. Very nice to see you in this kind of establishment.
Well, you're safe then, because you're a handsome chap. Good luck on your date. How expensive do you go? Like, do you go fancy restaurant, or are we going bar?
No, it's a bar. Actually, a request for anyone listening. If you happen to...
Don't do this.
Why not? I think it's going to be funny.
Oh, Chris, he shared this idea with me pre-show, and I was like, this is an awful idea. Well, it's too late now. You got to go. You got to do it.
Oh, you're filling me with anxiety about this. Maybe
then I'm going to do it. Chris would like you to come and recognize him in public so that he looks famous in front of his date.
Look, I was going to say, just come down.
Oh, USA Grand Prix thing. Oops.
To the there's a flag.
The flag. Get rid of the flag. Go on.
We're not American. Come down. Well, now we've all gone. I'll wait until you've.
No, they can still hear you. It's fine. I'm just looking for the bumper.
Right. Look, swing by the B at 1 by Clapham Junction, and come and recognize me, and make me look really good in front of her. Please.
Oh my God. Are you Chris Stevens from the TV, from the Superbike commentary?
No. Recognize me from Missed Apex. I think
really?
that's cooler.
Is that cooler, is it? No, our TV's on.
No, because no one's seen my face on my face has only been on TV for about 3 seconds. So it'd be weird if you recognize me from TV.
You're not there at the beginning going, hello, this is Bikes.
Yeah, I did that once for 3 seconds. It was like my first race that was on TNT. And they put the commentator cam on for literally 3 seconds.
And that's it. Oh, no. And by the way,
and that was it.
This is being recorded on the 30th of October, 2025. Don't go there random days. Did you?
No. Specifically tonight. After 7 p.m.
Chris, your podcast has just changed me. And... And it just
don't overdo it.
It
Make
just shows how reliable and what a great relationship guy you would make, and how if I was dating you, I definitely wouldn't play hard to get. You got to lock that down, Missy. That's the line that you got to do. Oh my God, I hope that happens. Right, let's go.
So do I, mate. What a story.
Oh, and in general, by the way, always the whole crew always come up and say hello. If you see us at a track or out and about, we always enjoy that and love that. We're definitely not of the. I mean, it happens regularly. Like in Miami, it was being recognized a lot. It was really, really cool. And but it's definitely not to that level where it's annoying. It's always wonderful to hear from people. So always come and say hello. I've had messages afterwards or found out afterwards. People say, "Oh, I saw you at the thing." I'm like, "Well, just." Come on, have a chat. Especially when like Silverstone, I'm wandering around on my own. I'm like, what? I would have really liked to eat my chips with someone. That would have been great. But yeah. Right, let's do the show. Let's do the mailbag. We've got a good mailbag. Chris, of course, you've spent a lot of time looking in those show notes.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, you dug in, so you'll have your favourite questions there. I've highlighted green as the good ones and highlighted what the topic of the question is in yellow. Okay. Why have I forgotten how to start this show? There we go. Look at us there.
Look at that handsome bugger.
You've seen what's happened there, right? Steve has photoshopped a thinner face, a more recent thinner face, onto a bigger body from last year.
There's a couple of those.
Yeah, there's a couple of those. He's tried to update. Like, he's done me a favor because he's like going, "Oh, I'll put the less fat face on it." But
I was going to say, didn't he put Summer's face on my body?
okay,
Because I actually had a few pro photos taken with this hoodie on, with the wrong but first hoodie on.
yeah,
And so we've got actually like a really good base photo.
yeah. But look,
I know you've used a couple of times, but he's put Summer's face on my body.
The real thing to do is us for all to have photo shoots or whatever. We just haven't ever done it. We've all been terrible at it.
We're not pro enough for that.
Yes, and we're not pro enough to have written a proper intro. So I'll be winging it. Let's go. Let's do it. You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. That's what I reckon. It's a mailbag show. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. As I said, it's a mailbag show. We don't take questions on a mailbag show. We just ask what you reckon. If there's an expert on, if Mike Caulfield's here, or Summers is here, or Joe's here, they're experts. You can ask them questions, but you can only tell us what you reckon, and we'll tell you what we reckon back. Okay, big breather. It has felt like a exhausting period in Formula One. That doubleheader, along with the sprint race, I think has meant that I'm welcoming a Sunday off just to gather my thoughts and to breathe. And there's been a lot of content-worthy action in these Grand Prix as well. So lots of controversy. Everybody's been really active on social media. Thank you so much to everyone who's interacted with us. Our email is back up and running now. So feedback@missedapex.net or spanners@missedapex.net. It's been wonderful interacting with people, but the sheer volume of those interactions just shows how passionate everyone was and how much drama there's been going on, especially as we get to this climactic end to a close season. Chris Stevens is here. You're joining me to rustle through the mailbag. Superbike commentator, extraordinaire, podcaster, journalist, and MC.
Oh, that was a long list of many accolades you gave me there.
I
Thank you.
panicked.
It's so good to be back.
Yeah. So we are heading into these final 4 races, I think, with 2 sprint events as well. There are a couple of questions about the championship. I am going to go away from that. But before we get into the mailbag, quick prediction: whose championship is it now?
Oh, I still think Max is going to do it.
Oh,
I
really?
really do. I think he's going to sneak it from under McLaren's noses, especially if they keep, taking points off of each other as they have been doing. Because Lando's had some weak races, Oscar's had some weak races. I know Mexico wasn't the best, weekend for Max, but he still came away with a podium.
Yeah.
So I genuinely think that it's going to be Max's.
Yeah, but that's because Max had little mushrooms and was taking Mario Kart shortcuts on lap 1 and lap 6.
It is also because McLaren started a chain of pit stops that then promoted Verstappen up to 3rd place.
Not only that, but Norris helped them with the decision to make that pit stop happen. Yeah, for the other car. I'm surprised Norris even answers that. Like, you go, what? At this point, have you not figured out already at this point that we are direct title rivals now?
Because the Constructors is wrapped up, so he's got no incentive to
Just
help
apart
Oscar
from
at
just
all.
being nice, could it just be that he's just a bit nice with Norris?
Do you know what? A lot of people have said that about him.
Have they? Okay,
Not cutthroat enough.
right. Well, because obviously we don't know them as people. But what if it turns out he's just generally got a kind soul, so he gets a request like that and goes, "Yeah, I'll do my best, do my best to help." Sorry about that. When in Canada when he crashed, can you imagine Vettel or Verstappen putting their hands up and going, "Yeah, my bad, my bad." They would have come up with something.
Not at all.
Or they'd have said, what crash? When did I do dangerous driving? They'd pull one of those. So I'm going Norris as well. Oh, Evan's gone. Piastri reboots to a new firmware free of bugs and wins all remaining races. Yeah. I think
That I can see as well.
You've got to go by the form that's happening now. And you've got to kind of go, Verstappen's in incredible form. Norris is locked in. Piastri is struggling. So I think given that, Norris only really has to beat Max one or two times, and Max is out of contention. And then he's got to continue beating Piastri. And that feels doable. So if the McLaren's the best car at a given race, he's got to beat Piastri. If it's not, he's got to go beat Verstappen.
I think that's very true. I do think that Max is the most deserving of the three. This year,
without doubt.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And if he were to do it, my God, it would easily be his best championship win, and probably
one of the best. Yeah, one of them.
The best championship win of this century, for sure.
But when you look at the points graphs between Norris and Piastri, it tells a tale, really, doesn't it? It's like Norris was throwing away points at the beginning, Piastri's throwing away points now. What you don't normally see in a season is exactly how many points a driver could have had. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So because Verstappen is kind of clear in his team, you can make the assumption that his points are the maximum amount of points that were on the table, apart from hitting Russell.
But I was going to say, I think that's the only points he's really dropped.
And Antonelli
spin at Silverstone.
Yeah, Antonelli took him out, I think, as well in one of the races too.
That wasn't his fault.
No. But
you got to allow for stuff like that to happen, especially in a what is it 24, 25 race?
Yeah.
season. What are we up to now?
Yeah.
Is it still 24? So maintaining that performance, like when it was 18 races, it was easier to maintain that level of performance. But 24, 25 races, we're seeing much more ebbs and flows in the.
But not in his form. We don't think we're all of the assumption, and it's a reasonable one, that he's maximizing what that car can do. And when you look at the lack of qualifying mistakes, for example, that does point to, hey, he's pretty consistent. He's probably being consistent in the races as well. He hasn't won all these championships by accident, or won by human error. But but if you look at the McLarens, if Piastri was the clear driver, you'd look at Mexico and you'd go, oh, the McLaren just wasn't performing very well. That there is that scenario where there's a rookie there getting used to it, or a pay driver, and you kind of go, oh well, that car was capable of P7. You might even say, well done, Piastri. He crawled up to P5 in the end. Well done. Whereas we know now, in reality, that Norris went and won the race by 30 seconds. And when you look at the points graph, you go, if you take the best McLaren result over the course of the season, that driver is clear. So when you say Max is more deserving, that's the thing that I think people will point to at the end of the season.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think anyone necessarily disputes that statement. Really.
No. I'm being mean to both of them. So,
that's true.
No, but and also I'll defend them both now. So this is the last thing I want to say on it, is that it's clear that there was some kind of change, and this is not a secret or a conspiracy. They made a change, and I think we heard Piastri talking about it first, saying he was struggling, he's having to drive differently. We heard Norris, this is just what we've heard from the drivers. We've heard Norris at the beginning of the season saying he's having to drive the car differently, it doesn't suit him. And then I think the interesting thing we heard after this race was he said that after Singapore, he sat down with the team and said, this car's the opposite of what I need, here's what I need. And they seem to have followed it. Piastri's comment on that upgrade or change to the suspension was, it wasn't a performance, it was just a different choice. So we could have had a season where two opposing driving styles have had to struggle with a car in each half of the season that hasn't suited them. And I think that's, maybe you'll still point to saying, well, you should be adaptable enough not to do that. But you watch that onboard of the Mexican Grand Prix qualifying times in Q3, it is stark how different their driving styles are.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. And you look at how much Oscar was struggling with the rear end, particularly
on power
in that qualifying.
Yeah.
I remember the last time I saw that many, slides in a quali run.
Yeah, I know, but I saw it in practice as well. So it seemed to be something he was struggling with, that low grip with that suspension. So that's the defense I'm putting towards them both having these dips and peaks. But let's get on to the mailbag. We're an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first.
Oh, but such and such podcast comes out before you. Oh, that other podcast comes out before.
I don't care. Wrong but first. Forever. 100 years of Missed Apex being wrong but first. Me and Chris, Me and Chris and Matt and all the other guys, 100 years.
9 more seasons.
9 more
seasons.
20 more seasons of Missed Apex. Jake D in our Patreon chat. These all these reckons are from the Patreon chat, by the way. I reckon that the main rivalry between the newest generation of drivers will be between Bortoletto and Hadjar. It's an interesting question. How far do we want to look ahead in the future to kind of predict our championship battles?
Well, do you know, it's funny, actually starting off with my favorite question that we had, which just happens to be at the top.
Yes.
But no joke, I was having this little internal debate between Bortoletto and Hadjar for who was the rookie of the year during free practice last week. And I just kept thinking to myself, it's so hard to compare them because Hadjar's definitely had a better car than Bortoletto across the season. So it's difficult to directly compare, but I think they have been two of the closest to their more experienced teammates. In fact, Bortoletto's actually been a bit ahead of Hulkenberg, I think, in the qualifyings. And I definitely think that of all of the rookies that we have this year, the two that have stood out to me the most and that I think have definitely got a race-winning future are Bortoletto and Hadjar. After Mexico, I would add Behrman to that list as well. Because I've watched a lot of him in F2 and in Formula 3. And I don't think he's necessarily shown everything he's had so far this year. And in Mexico, we actually got a glimpse of what Behrman as a finished product is capable of doing. He's made a lot of silly mistakes this year, but it's kind of par for the course for a rookie. So I would be tempted to throw Behrman into that mix as well. When you consider that Hadjar at some point will be driving a Red Bull, which we assume will still be competitive in 4 or 5 years' time, hopefully. Then Behrman, maybe he'll have a Ferrari seat.
Oh.
Bortoletto, if Audi gets their stuff together, who knows what they could be doing. The thing is, we all thought that, Daniel Ricciardo was going to end up a multiple world champion. But you've got to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Crucially.
And the right teammate as well. The right teammate.
Yeah, the right teammate. Yeah.
So let's start with the two that Jake said then. So yeah, with Bortoletto and Hadjar, you've got Hulkenberg, who, and it's never as easy as this, but you have to look at their previous teammate battles, don't you? You just have to as a sort of start point. And you go, Ricciardo was comfortably on top of Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg's kind of scrapped with the likes of Perez, who we'll talk about later. And you go, okay, well, that's how much of a benchmark do we think that is? That's a debate as well. He's definitely Hulkenberg, good enough race driver to be paid to drive Formula One cars, and people want him. And he could. How many people could jump in as a sub for one race and do well like he did for Aston Martin or for Racing Point? But he's still considered, I think, a journeyman driver by like most people. No one's putting Hulkenberg in their list of all-time greats. But you look at that as a young sensation and you go, that's kind of a good one to start with. You don't really want a Russell versus, not Sorokin. Who was Russell up against? He was up against
Kubica?
Yeah, and then Sargent. Yeah. So you go, in that environment, we didn't really get to see much of what Russell was up to. So then when he gets promoted, you could kind of go, well, he looked amazing against those guys, and that's why he got promoted. So what do you want? You want a driver who's not as good as their reputation or a beatable driver. But I think if Bortoletto had not started to get on top of Hulkenberg, as we're starting to see, I don't think he would feature in this conversation right now if he was, a bunch of points down and just not able to hang with him in qualifying.
It's bizarre because when you consider that, the Sauber has, it's not been the worst car. It's been close. And on occasion, it's maybe been the 7th best car, but it's never been right up there. Unlike, say, the Racing Bull, which has, I think, on multiple occasions been the best midfield car. When you take away Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes. Those, that would be the I'm missing one out. Oh yeah, Max. Just Max, not Red Bull. Yeah, they've been the one that's fighting for the eighth place, basically, which is top of the midfield.
Evan would like to defend Hulkenberg and just say, in defense of Hulkenberg, which is absolutely fine. I have to admit that wouldn't have been the one that I was watching absolutely the closest. He was pretty close to Ricciardo until Japan, when it was clear he would not continue with Renault. Then the points difference got big there as well. And so, yeah. So I think Bortoleto, everyone is now rating him. That's the consensus.
Yeah.
And we have got... sorry, there's just a little audio glitch at your end, Chris. I think it was what we were talking about before the show started.
Oh.
Just have a little look at that. I'm getting a lot of noise coming through.
Okay.
This is the kind of stuff we have to just deal with on the fly. So Behrman's an interesting one. Behrman's an interesting one for us as a panel, because obviously Matt is a massive Ocon fan, and I had said that Behrman was overhyped after his substitute performances. So I'll just clarify. I didn't think we should have been getting so excited about him coming 7th. Quite a long way behind his teammate. He jumped in late. I'm not saying he did badly. All I was saying was I didn't think there was enough data to kind of go, he's done something incredible, something amazing here. They had given him a safe strategy. They'd put him on the stickier tyres for a suboptimal strategy. So even then, that takes him back down the race a little bit overall. All I was saying was the screaming of, oh my, he finishes P7, can you believe it? Yeah, because it was like a P2 car that he was in. That's all I was saying. I was just saying, don't get carried away. And then at the beginning of the season, it kind of looked a little meh, but he's a rookie. First 6 months. Now, I think this is the starkest one. This is worrying for Ocon. Matt's taken it pretty well, to be fair. But this is a little bit worrying for Ocon that Behrman does now look like he's really comfortable.
I guess we'll see in these closing races, really, won't we? He's coming up to some tracks that he's never raced at before. And that was part of why Mexico was so impressive, because he hadn't raced there before. And you think about he's never raced at Qatar. He won't have raced in Brazil or Vegas. So obviously Ocon's going to have a bit of an upper hand there. If he still gets beaten by Behrman, then yeah, he really should be getting worried.
But that's a good one for Behrman as well. So I think overall, that's looking good for him. The other rookies we mentioned there are Hadjar. So Hadjar is he's blessed at the moment, because I think if Lawson had just been a little bit better, he would have been with Tsunoda. I think that would have been a tougher challenge than Lawson. But at the moment, he looks, even with this engine glitch he seems to have picked up over the last few races, he definitely, his stock is high. He's comfortably over Lawson, and Tsunoda is looking terrible. I had people going, when he got beaten in FP1 by Lindblad.
Oh, Arvid Lindblad.
Yeah, Lindblad. People going, well, that's it for Tsunoda then. It's like, well, one is he's so bad he got beaten by a rookie in FP1, or the more reasonable, they just had different run plans, or that shows how much faster Verstappen's car is that Lindblad was going into. But overall, he's looking bad compared to Hadjar. So Hadjar's stock is through the roof. So at the moment, it is looking like we could have a future with Isaac Hadjar, Behrman and Bortoleto as the guys filling those top teams. Because Hadjar is the Red Bull driver after Max has swanned off to do his sports cars, or is at the Aston Martin project. And the other one here to discuss, though, is Franco Colapinto, and whether he even has a shout. It's just been announced that he's going to be with the team in 2026. I didn't see that coming. I thought the not keeping out of the wall was really going to drag him down.
Yeah, I feel like they just need some stability in their lineup, though, especially with so many changes for next year. So just for the sake of having a reference point, it's probably the way to go, especially when you consider that they're changing power units for next year at Alpine. So it's yet another change in that system that they'll want stability where they can get it. I would throw Antonelli in as someone who's going to be fighting at the top. We've kind of taken Antonelli for granted a little bit. He was so impressive in those early few races, and then it's actually weirdly gone downhill since then, which is quite surprising. But I've no doubt that he is going to be up there with
Really?
these guys
Okay.
when they get their chance to be fighting up at the front. Because think about how different Formula One could look in 5 years, because Alonso won't be around. I think it's very unlikely that Hamilton will be around. Max could be doing anything he wants to. I find it particularly impressive. He's already trying to dual campaign a couple of things. You know, he's got his Nürburgring project for next year that he wants to go and do the 24 hours. And you'd imagine he'll do one race in the Nürburgring Championship before going into the 24 hours as well. So I find that quite impressive as well. And then surely he's going to try anything he wants to because he can. So in 5 years, we may not have Alonso, Hamilton, Verstappen, and people will be moving around all over the place. And suddenly these are the guys who's going to be coming in and filling in, you know, their roles at these top teams. And I always look and I think, do you know what? The future of Formula One looks to be in very good hands.
I think Antonelli's probably got the toughest of those rookies that we've talked about. He's got the toughest
100%.
teammate to go up against. And I was trying to look at something because I think it was Rob who had a reckon that said, I reckon that, oh, here we go, Rob Asher, I reckon George is actually going to win the World Drivers' Championship next year. No, really? And he's saying that as if it's unlikely. But if that team is at the top, it looks like he's better than Antonelli at the moment. Yeah, of course George Russell can win a championship. Of course he can.
You've got to think the rumors. I know every team will say, we haven't put an engine on the thing and you're all speculating, blah, blah, blah. Except we kind of did the same thing in 2014 and it turned out to be pretty accurate. So the rumor is that Mercedes is going to have the best engine next year, or at worst, the second best engine. You know, if Ferrari suddenly come a-blazing with some fantastic engine, but no one's really anticipating that from them. And that, you know, the Honda might be good, but they'll have to be getting back up to speed. Red Bull is building a power unit for the first time, so it'll be unlikely for them to come in and be the best engine straight away. Same for Audi as well. So you've got to think that Mercedes is the best placed power unit manufacturer for next year. So then when you consider between them, it's between McLaren, Mercedes, and Alpine. Well, it's unlikely to be Alpine, isn't it? So the question is, can Mercedes finally build a better car than their customer, which they haven't been able to do for the past 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, doesn't it make the Ron Dennis statement about you'll never win with a customer car, with a customer engine? That's just before they went to Honda and had a disaster down the grid. And look, here they are. He has been proved very wrong.
In fairness, I think McLaren's probably the exception to the rule, because even back when, you know, the first era of McLaren Mercedes in the 2000s, that was a factory deal. Even when Mercedes bought Brawn and entered as a works team, it was still very clear that the McLaren are the ones who are going to be scoring the results. So they are going to be the ones that have the quote unquote factory status still. And it was even the same at Red Bull with Renault for a couple of their championship winning years as well. So I don't entirely disagree with the Ron Dennis statement. It's very unlikely, but it's happened.
Let's move on and let's stick with the kind of driver transfer stuff here for the reckons. I've gone to YAIR, says, I reckon if Leclerc leaves Ferrari, it won't be such a big loss as everybody assumes. Ferrari are not the only ones to blame for his frequent inability to convert poles to wins. And there's another Leclerc one here from Tomic as well. But let's start with that. I think it's very, very harsh, that one. Yeah, I think that's very harsh. It's the fact that he is a good qualifier and put a car that has been for the last few years a much better qualifying car than a high fuel car. the fact that he's good enough to have put it on pole, then to watch that lead bleed away down to just not having the race pace. He has had a very, very unfair rap for this pole's not conversion rate. Not every race is Monaco where you can just park the bus, and it's not 1995 as well where the field's that spread out.
Is it like Metallica said, though? Sad but true. It breaks my heart thinking about this.
Oh, you agree?
No, I don't know if I agree or not. Obviously, the one that springs to mind is Paul Ricard when he was fighting with Max for the win, and then he dropped the car and he did his famous no over the radio. But that's really the only one that springs to mind where it was very clearly his fault for not converting that pole into a win. And yes, Ferrari have definitely had a better qualifying car than they have had a race car, particularly when you look at like this year, for example, where they've had all the skimming issues on high fuel and various other, the lift and coast. Oh my God. If I hear lift and coast on their radio one more time, I'm astonished. I'm astonished that Leclerc was ever in contention for the podium in Mexico, to be honest.
Well, what they seem to be doing is they seem to be maximizing. In fact, I'm going to divert to another question here. Okay. Here we go. So Eric says, I reckon Ferrari develop their cars around loopholes and then around regulations, and then the FIA covers that loophole, and so then they fall behind. So you go, are Ferrari like constantly looking for a magic bullet? I think I've said that on previous shows. Is it that they're looking for a magic bullet that's their double diffuser, and if it doesn't quite work, or if the loophole gets shut down, then they're in trouble. So now they're in this situation where the only way they can get up the grid is to run very, very low. But then when it comes to the race, they have to keep lifting and coasting to avoid plank wear or to save the brakes as well. So they've got that issue with the brakes too. So is there a scenario where they can go, do you know what? Let's just start from the ground up. Let's accept that we're going to qualify out of the top 10 and just race with a car that we can actually just drive in. Like, is it going to be, how much slower is it going to be than having to lift and coast from like lap 3?
But what's their magic bullet been since the alleged oil burning thing in 2018? What has been the magic bullet that they've supposedly designed the car around?
The alleged action was not the oil burning, was it? It was the fact that they were somehow getting extra fuel into the system.
I was just trying to surmise. You know what I mean? Yeah. The whole engine thing.
Yeah. So that is like a let's find a magic bullet special thing. That's a pretty good example. Yeah. And then they get
that was 7-8 years ago, Spanners. So what's it been since then?
Well, at the moment, it's been trying to run lower than is physically possible. Is their big magic bullet for this one?
I don't know if that's necessarily a magic bullet, though. It's definitely not a loophole in the regulations, is it? So I think the statement is a little bit grandized a little bit.
We'd need more examples, wouldn't we? I think from Eric there. But so you think that you are seeing flaws in Leclerc, but I would look at his performance against Hamilton now, and if it was a lesser driver, then we wouldn't have been as harsh on Hamilton. You'd go, "Cool, this Ferrari's a pig." Let's say you just happen to be in a situation like Vettel and Alonso have found themselves in, with at the end of the career Massa or Raikkonen, and they were finishing down where Hamilton's been finishing. You just go, "Oh, this car's a bit of a pig." Oh, they brought it a bit together in Mexico. That. He was running up in P2 for a little while before those penalties. And so you have to kind of put it in that perspective and say, well, Leclerc, less so now, but made Hamilton look incredibly ordinary and at sea at the beginning of the season. And if you look at him up against Sainz, I think he looked like a better driver up against Carlos Sainz most weekends. Now, Carlos Sainz fans will point to these weekends, but we seem to go on this cycle, didn't we, of good Sainz result. Oh, he's so underrated. Oh, everyone is, and then he'd disappear for 5 or 6 races. Then he'd have that good result, and everyone would go, see, he's much better than Leclerc. So honestly, I think Leclerc comes out of all of these maths things pretty well.
He does. I think Sainz disappears is a bit of a harsh way of describing his
anonymous.
His former. No, I would say, I wasn't it pretty close the weekends where Leclerc was ahead. There wasn't much in it, so. I think that's a bit harsh.
It's not like he was at sea and couldn't drive, but I was very comfortable most of the season that Leclerc was the stronger driver, right? Race in, race out. If you had to bet on one, you'd bet on Leclerc. And every now and then you'd lose that bet, like 1 in 6 races.
Maybe. I think he's helped his stock a little bit at Williams with his recent form, hasn't he? Because he's been pretty good there lately. I would love for Leclerc to be, fighting for world championships. I think everyone would. He's the feel-good story that Formula One would adore. And it would be, I think it'd be better than the plot of the F1 movie, that's for sure. So we all want it. That's the problem. But I think we make excuses for Charles because we want him to do well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I'm not immune to that. So it could well be that, a desire to have him do well. I'm putting as positive a spin on it as I can. I accept that. So Tom X1 then, this is interesting, says, I reckon Lando and Charles should swap seats, and then we'd get to see the dark side of Charles as he actually has a chance. And then, so Tom X not a Ferrari fan then, and then Lando and Lewis can calmly build their brand and have fun in red. As what is like a retirement tour.
I don't. Would Lando and Lewis necessarily get on so well?
It depends how ambitious they are.
They seem like very different people, to be honest, and especially I hate to bring up Lando's comments about Lewis
years ago.
All he has to do is
beat his teammate. That's it.
And he's got an easy job, and Lando suddenly realized that actually it's a little bit more complicated than that. So the idea of them being teammates in what is currently a not great car would be very interesting.
Would we agree, though? Would we agree, in context of our Charles Leclerc discussion, we would bet on Leclerc to beat either McLaren driver?
Or
rerun next season, but putting Leclerc in one of those cars. Come on, chat.
Oscar and Charles is a lethal combination in a team. I think that Oscar would have Charles' number, though, because he is so cold. God. The thing is, I think there's a little bit of recency bias here, though, because he's made a couple of mistakes. You know how rare it is to see a mistake out of Oscar Piastri, and it's like a London bus, so you've had a couple come along at once, right? I think that on the normal form, the form we are used to seeing from Oscar, not of the last couple of races, that Oscar would have Charles' number in a world championship winning car.
I think you've damaged your reputation there. I think Superbikes needs to take a proper look at who they've got on their hands. This is awful. What an awful take. Leclerc would be an absolute no contest throughout the course of the season. Oh my goodness. I think he would pocket Piastri, bottom left pocket, followed by a clear up.
I think you're underestimating Oscar a little bit. Do you know what is actually really interesting about that lineup is that I don't think there's ever been a lineup. I'd be astonished if this has ever happened before, but where in their junior careers won F3 and F2 and then went into F1, in not consecutive years because Oscar missed a year, but to win, F3 and F2 back to back and then move up to Formula One because they both did that.
So that'd be the first time. Yeah,
to have two of those drivers in the same team fighting for a world championship.
Well, Lucas says, nope, Chris has moved up in my book. No, I don't know.
Thank you, Lucas.
That's a hell of a take, that one. All right, let's see.
I will say though, just to add a touch of reality to this, I think if anyone's leaving McLaren in the short-term future, it'd be Oscar.
Well, the comments from Webber were strange. The I'd better learn Italian comments. That was really odd to why have we put ourselves at odds with McLaren? Are they angrier about this suspension change than they're letting on? Because they've made little comments about it to make sure the information's out there. But maybe behind the scenes, they're actually livid that the team has developed towards Lando Norris. And by the way, I don't think that's controversial anymore. I think we can say this. In mid-2025, in the middle of the season, McLaren made mechanical changes to suit Lando Norris. I'm not saying that's malicious, but the changes they made were asked for and happened to then suit Lando Norris, and Piastri suddenly struggling. So sort of not an apology, because I'd never apologise to Australians, but a mini apology. I'm not saying it's sabotage and they did it because they hate Piastri. They probably just thought, oh, we're getting good feedback from a driver. Let's improve a thing or change a thing. And then Piastri's come off worse from that. But yeah, Aussie land, Australians, I can start to feel why you're feeling hard done by.
It's what we keep saying about the speed and the consistency. That's not enough to win a world championship if you're in a championship winning car. The quality of the greats is that they get the team around them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they lead that discussion on car development. Yeah. Like, no, we need to go in this direction so that it's better for me.
Yeah. And Lewis
that's what Lando's done.
Yeah, Lewis was terrible at that. So he's prided himself and said, no, I'll equal cars, I'll just go and beat anyone. That's fantastic and brave, but the Verstappen method is better. The Schumacher method is better. Alonso would never want to have an even car. There was talk of Alonso just handing out cash to people in the McLaren when he was up there against Lewis Hamilton, handing engineers just car. Here's a wad of car. Here's a present. Here's a Ferrari. All allegedly, by the way. We got told that story by someone else, but he was doing all he could to get the team on his side, and ultimately that didn't work. But yeah, that's actually a weakness of Hamilton's position. The only time when he seemed like he was really properly an unchallenged number one was, I think, when Bottas came into the team and he was already so settled there. And maybe Bottas was a little bit more passive and didn't try to usurp Hamilton, didn't try and go and kick over a hornet's nest. And then when Russell came in, you absolutely get the sense that Russell is canvassing for himself, advocating for himself, and saying, hey, the car needs to be this, that, or the other. And so, yeah, that's some major quality in a future world champion.
I think especially when Russell came in to Mercedes was not a good car. So he probably seized that opportunity to lead the car development. Where it's slightly different when you've got a car that is so clearly head and shoulders above everyone else's, like McLaren has had for most of this year. So trying to push the development into your favor is a huge advantage. I do think Camp Piastri is a lot more angry about not just this, about several events over the course of this year than they're letting on.
Yeah, Monza's the big one, and apparently Monza was why he was getting booed in Mexico.
Why Lando was getting booed? Yeah. So there was a journalist in the press conference who sort of explained it, and apparently asked, "Are you going to give those points back?" What a stupid question. How does that work?
Well, that's a 3-point swing, that one. So that was a 6-pointer. I think we can happily point to the points that Lando Norris lost in the sprint in Austin, which would have been at least 7. So I think we can call it quits on that one, can't we?
To be honest, I'm bored of talking about McLaren trying to be fair and papaya rules. They have, like the Oxford English Dictionary has a word of the year.
Do you know what it is this year?
The exact opposite of that is papaya rules for me.
Right. The worst word of the year. Oh, it's that 6-7 thing.
Oh, shut up.
No,
is it actually?
Yeah.
It's not even a word.
I've banned it from my house, yeah. And so Eric, who said that question about the loopholes, by the way, has come up with a bunch of examples. I think this will be a good one for Kyle and Matt to do a little show on. So asymmetric braking ban in 2024. Ferrari also had braking problems, apparently. 2022, ban on flexible floors, and Ferrari dropped. So Eric's obviously got a few examples in his mind.
I feel like the 2022 drop in performance, though, was because Ferrari was one of like 2 teams that actually managed to meet the weight limit.
Oh, and everyone else
at the start of the season. Red Bull's car was so overweight that, frankly, it was astonishing that Max was fighting for wins with Charles. And I think as soon as they managed to drop a few kilos off of it, it became the dominant force that we saw over the course of the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, and also that car did look better than it was due to the DNFs as well. So people were talking about, would it be the most boring season ever with Leclerc's dominance? That was the conversation after 5 races, I think. People were worried, like, oh, he's just going to run away with it. He's just going to run away with it. But honestly, the way that development changes now, we really can't tell how the season is going to pan out. We've seen a few comebacks now.
it goes back to what I was saying earlier about when there were 18 races in the season, that you would have
Yeah, you didn't have
fewer
that
of
chance,
those
yeah.
dips, and there would be less, big momentum swings. Whereas with 25 races now, there's more opportunities for drivers like Max to this year come and fight back, and to come back in a year like 2022, for example. If we had the calendar we had 15 years ago, then yeah, Oscar would have been world champion by now, but we don't.
I'm looking for a reckon that I wasn't gonna do, but I'm gonna do it now. I'm really sorry for whoever it was, but it's basically saying that there's gonna be a lot of regulation changes in 2026 as people panic about how poorly the 2026 cars are doing. So you could have one team dominating and then they suddenly go, yeah, but like we've got cars that are crashing into each other on the straights because there's 100-mile-an-hour difference as people are regenning. And then some big regulation comes in over the summer and that flips the order again.
I can see this happening. Yes. I think that teams will come up with stuff that the FIA hasn't foreseen at the start of a new regulation set. So there will be a 6-month period of review, investigate, ban. That will go on for a little bit, with probably a multitude of things. There's probably going to be a bit of chaos at the start of the season with the difference in speed because of the regenning. I think drivers also getting used to switching between the low downforce and the high downforce modes on the straights and between the corners. So, and which inevitably will go wrong and cause a horrific high speed incident. But I do worry that the FIA will, according to past form, react a little bit too quickly to this stuff, because when the 2014 season started and people were saying, well, Christ, the GP2 car, the F2 cars at the time, are quicker than the back markers, quicker than the Caterham in Formula One. So we need to make quick cars really quick.
Yeah.
And then so they designed the high downforce cars for 2017 and overtaking went through the floor.
Yeah, that's the worst regulation change ever. I found it. It was Benny. Hello, Benny. He said, I reckon we will see mid-season rule changes next year due to the active aero. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong with that as well.
Spanners, I am going to disagree with you about the fact that the high downforce era was a mistake. Because for me, that was peak Formula One.
Really? Gosh, no.
I love it. It doesn't beat that period of 2007 to 2012, in my opinion, but it was head and shoulders better than the pithy early turbo hybrid cars that we had in 14 to 16. The cars looked better stationary. They looked better going around circuits. And for my money, the racing was actually better.
Okay, well, we've got an interesting question from Scott, I reckon, from Scott, that's along these lines. Scott says, I reckon that this season is ultimately a worse season than 2024. While the championship fight is closer, individual races being entertaining are more important to the health of F1. This is a good take, because I got caught up in the excitement of the championship and I'm looking at everything as a chapter in the story. And I don't know if it's just me that watches it like that. It's like Sunday is, right, it's time to sit down with my F1 book and I'm going to read a chapter. And it's almost not as important when you're invested in the story. It's not as important like how much action is there in the chapter. It's, do we find out who murdered Keith? Or do we find out whether the Orc army is coming over the hill? And so you go, I'm satisfied then. That's my dopamine here, is that we've got a new revelation in the story. So for me in 2024, it was, Verstappen wins again. And I think that was the record-breaking season. He won, I think, 18 out of the races.
That was 23.
Or was that 23? Right.
Yeah, no, last year was when Max started the season as he finished 23, but then we had more winners in Formula One than ever before.
Yeah.
So, or at least the most competitive season that Formula One had, where, it was more drivers won multiple Grand Prix than ever before.
Is that right? Oh, okay.
It was like Oscar won 2 races, Lando won a couple of races, Lewis and George did as well.
Yep.
Leclerc and Sainz, I think, as well, won multiple races. Even Perez won. No, wait, no, he didn't. Was Perez Red Bull in 24? I genuinely don't remember. Was he?
Yeah, it was only this season because we've had 2 new drivers. It seems weird that last year Perez was there, but yeah,
Was still Perez. Yeah. No. Okay. So I think even he won a race as well.
Okay, you said I was going to let it go the first time, but that even Perez won a race, that hurt, and the fact you repeated it, even Perez.
What, against Max? We all know that Perez won races when Max had a problem.
Boo.
So in that specific era, I would say. So I agree with this take. I think it's a good take. The races themselves have been leaving you wanting something a little bit more out of them, right? I think we've had peaks and troughs. That's to be expected. Again, something that happens in a 25 race season. You can tell I don't like how long the season is.
It's a long season.
It's a really long season. But also, last year was great, but we overhyped the championship because we wanted a story. This year, there is actually a really great championship fight. But I think what's really hampered it is papaya rules. I think that has left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. And the fact that it just hasn't been what we all expected it to be. Because we all came away from last season thinking, Christ, Formula One is more competitive than ever before, with multiple teams winning multiple Grand Prix throughout a season. So surely next year, 2025, and it's the last year of the regulation set, we know that's when it's the most competitive. It's going to be an absolute barnstormer, and McLaren has walked away with it. That being said, when was the last time you saw Sauber, Racing Bulls, and Williams scoring podiums? All of them in 1 year. So when you look at it in that sense, there has been some really great moments.
I'm going to take Russell's comment about the racing, and he's saying, well, basically they can't overtake this year. And I think the reason for it is going to be related to some tyre questions that reckons that we have down the list. But the tyre compounds are actually much more safe compared to each other. They're quite similar compared to each other. We think about, when was the last time you saw someone put on softs and they're like 5 seconds a lap quicker suddenly than the guys on the old hards, and then they charge towards it and then the tyres go off a cliff. It's much less dramatic. And so Russell's comment was, we could have won a certain race if we'd have qualified higher, because you just stay in the position that you're going to stay in. And so I think actually a lot of the podiums and the really high results for the lower teams have been because there's been a freaky Saturday or something strange has happened on the Saturday, and then they've been able to convert that, which is great, but great in almost a Monaco way where, well, you weren't going to get past anyone, so you sort of end up where you finish.
Case in point, when Max put the soft tires on in Mexico, so he's chasing cars that are on older tires that are a step harder than his. He should have been rocketing to the back of them and going past them with ease. And he wasn't. And that's because the tires were too similar. And there wasn't enough deg in them either.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that we want the cliff. We missed the cliff. We missed the cliff. He took it. He risked a little bit too much, and now he's 4 seconds a lap down. I don't think we're going to get that again. Amber came in with one that says, I reckon that skipping tyre compounds are going to be a regular thing in 2026. And that, I think, is to mask the fact that they're not as dramatic in the change. So maybe if you were to analyse the peak performance of a tyre on lap 1, then yes, they've got, in theory, the same gaps between the tyres. But because they're not evolving as dramatically throughout a stint, we're not really seeing them do the thing that we want them to do, which is create a big delta for overtaking. So maybe that's why we're not getting great overtaking. But the skipping a compound, because the gap is too big, say between a C1 and a C3, C4, which is the skip I think they did this week. No, they did 2, skipped 3, and then did 4 and 5. What you're really doing is just taking one tyre out of it. So the 2 that are like the most correct, if you like, will get used. So medium and soft in the race. no one's going to touch the hard. There's no reason to do it. So the skipping a compound just really reduces us to 2 compounds, I think, in effect. Or perhaps the other effect you get is you have one tire becomes the qualifying tire, and then the 2 harder tires become the race tires. You'd love it?
I would love it if we got rid of the 3-tire rule.
I think we're struggling with Chris a little bit. Chris, are you there? I don't think Chris can hear me anymore.
Yeah, sorry. I think.
Is your internet dying, Chris? Don't stress if it is. You think he's typing something. He's having issues, is what Christopher is saying. So I will take your reckons on the chin here. Yeah, so Maria disagreed with Scott. McLaren will take the Drivers' Championship, proving the one-driver team philosophy is not the only way. Oh, that's not disagreeing with Scott. That's disagreeing with me. There it is. Boo. And I said Russell could win the championship, Maria. Come on. But yeah, so I kind of disagree with Scott, but it is a good point. It's a good take that is not necessarily my take. And I think that individual races have definitely suffered. And as a content creator, when you go, what are we going to talk about from a race? I think there's been less races where we've gone, oh, well, we're not going to fit all of that in. There's more races where people have gone, hey, why did you talk about that wheel nut for 20 minutes? And you go, well, because nothing else really happened. So, yeah, I had to talk about the wheel nut. So, yeah, I don't think it's been the best season for racing, but it's kind of got an end-of-term feeling where we know that, with 4 races left, and then there's going to be something completely different. All right, let's see. Who else have we got here with the reckons? Well done, guys. I really enjoyed the feedback on this. Sarah has come down on one with Apple TV. So don't know a huge amount about this. I'm going to be honest, but I do have opinions. So help me out in the chat if I'm getting anything wrong here. I reckon that the F1 plus Apple TV deal will be better for Apple than for F1. My assumption is that Apple TV subscribers are there for prestige TV and not sports. So the crossover to F1 won't be there, but F1 fans who sign up for Apple TV for the first time will now have access to these marquee TV shows. So, and we had a couple of Apple. Sorry, I'm concentrating on Chris a little bit as well. If you need to go and come back or just can't sort it, Chris, just message me and let me know. It's not a drama. Barrett said, I reckon Apple's tech influence will improve the overall, will still not improve the overall display and tech that we have to look at. And I have long protested against paywalls for Formula One and for all sport, but really it's inevitable now. We don't live in a world anymore with a central broadcaster, and it being part of a cable package that you pay for is always going to be the thing going forward now, especially with things being so compartmentalized. With the UK and Sky, we're unlucky because you have to subscribe to this large Sky package that includes everything that they offer. So, a big cable package with movies, whatever. And you can pick to a certain extent, but you have to have their equipment, their special equipment, and then their subscription to watch Formula One. In America, they've driven this more not a la carte, like a buffet. You can just pick. I'll get my Netflix, I'll get my Disney, I'll get my Apple. And so if you were just only going to watch F1, it doesn't really matter whether you're paying for F1 TV or for Apple. So I'm struggling to see why people got super angry about that. If they're an existing F1 TV viewer, I believe the app still works in America anyway, but even if you had to just move, you're just moving to Apple, and Apple's got some TV shows on there as well. So, and if you're an Apple user, you're going to get some free F1 content. So if you've got an iPhone, you're going to get some content for free. You're going to get free practices. You're going to get select races. And so you go, well, that is going to be pretty good for the US audience. And I looked it up, and it's something like 50 to 60% of new sales of smartphones are Apple. And so there's going to be a bunch of people who would not have paid for F1 TV on their phone. And suddenly you go, I can watch, even without an Apple TV subscription, I can watch Formula One cars going around. I can watch a Formula One race. I'll see what all the fuss is about. So apparently it was between Netflix and Apple. And so I don't know. these are both companies where they're not traditionally sports live streaming companies, but they then want to get into it. And my feeling was, just from listening to podcasts and stuff, that Netflix is a little bit further down that road. And also, if you want to talk about ubiquity, Netflix is kind of the Google of, Google's the search engine. It's even become a verb saying, well, let's Google that. What you mean is let's put that into a search engine. Netflix is almost the default streaming service that most people have. And then you'll go, well, then I'll pick, well, maybe I'll have Apple, maybe I'll have Disney, maybe I'll have Paramount, maybe I'll rotate between those. And so obviously Apple is vying to try and be that kind of Netflix, is a Netflix killer. Can they bring content on that's going to bring all these F1 fans that were paying for F1 TV, bring them all now into the Apple space? That's a big bump for the Apple TV subscription. I don't see how it harms F1 because it was already part of it. It was already part of this ecosystem of you having to pay individually for one service for your one product, whereas now you're paying and you're getting all the TV shows. Ben says, also Apple buying the rights pulls it off broadcast TV, ESPN, not just off of old F1 TV. Oh, right. And ESPN is just part of a normal cable package. Yep. Yeah, okay. So it makes a difference to the ESPN viewers. Apple are going to heavily promote it within their walled gardens, says Mark. And I think that is not to be underrepresented. So for F1, if they're still going for growth, which Ben feels like they're not, Ben says it feels like the FAA has settled with the audience size in the US. MLS viewership has dropped off since Apple purchased the broadcast rights. Aw, that's not what I want to hear. But yeah, if they do promote it heavily in their walled garden, and if F1 is a better product than Major League Soccer, I don't know. In my opinion, it is. And Hayden is saying the vast majority of US audience watched via cable, not F1 TV. So yeah, as a content creator, and especially for us who have a huge percentage of our audience is American, that is actually slightly worrying for us. But yeah, we've got to hope that enough people love the sport enough, and probably the people who listen to podcasts are the sort of people who are like, I might grumble about it, but I'll end up paying for the thing that F1 is on. And so if you didn't have an ideological hate of Apple, like I kind of do, I'm team Android, but I would eventually hold my nose and subscribe to Apple TV, like I have done before for certain TV series. I've subscribed to it for a little while. So yeah, it's an interesting one. To me, it does feel like a business one, not a growth one. So just let's hope for the sake of Missed Apex survival and the F1 eco space that it works out all right. Todd says, I would want to spice up quali in one of two ways. First, I think the mandatory all three tyre compounds across Q1 and Q3. However, the teams can choose whichever order they wish to use it. That's interesting. Second, I feel if you cause a red flag in qualifying, you automatically go to last place in that round. So a red flag in Q2, you start P15, even if you had the quickest time. Yeah, so causing the red flag, that's a no-brainer. I can't believe that hasn't already happened, because that really is open to abuse. And just go, right, I'm just going to dink my front wing in. I'm going to lock up my brakes and end up in a pit road to try and disrupt your competitors. I think I'd go a little bit further and say, if you cause that kind of yellow that gets, I don't know how you define it, but a yellow that removes whole swathes of people's opportunities to qualify, you could be at risk of losing your fastest time, maybe not disqualified from the session. But drivers definitely deliberately, it definitely happens. They definitely deliberately disrupt a qualifying session to protect their lap time. The other one with the other tyre compounds is fine. It's tinkering around the edges. You could say, okay, you've got hard, mediums, and softs to use them in any order. So I guess you'd get one of the teams down the order trying to use the softs in Q1. All the top teams would save their softs for Q3. And so, yeah, a midfield team might get knocked out by a bottom team using softs. And then you go, then you'll have this arms race, I guess, where those teams that are starting to get knocked out in Q1 now that shouldn't be, they'll start to use their softs as well and then do as well as they can on the mediums in Q2. So it may be a slight interesting wrinkle, but for the top four teams, they're all going to go hard, medium, soft So I'm not sure how interesting that would make it, but I do agree with the principle that you can tinker with qualifying a little bit if you want to affect the races. So I think if you affect the race order significantly, you get a more interesting race, always. So what you don't want is a qualifying format that guarantees they're going to line up in pace order. It's absolutely the worst way from an entertainment point of view to line up the grid. It's the fairest and it's the most sportingly pure, but we can introduce a little bit of jeopardy, can't we? We can introduce like a little bit of a thing that will mix things up, that feels natural, that turns qualifying into a competition. Because otherwise, qualifying isn't a competition. It's just confirming what we kind of know the order to be. So yeah, it's a competition. You're still having to build the car and go fastest. But if you were fairly static for a few races, you know, right, this is going to be the order. It's been the order for the last 10 races. It's probably how they're going to shake out. On you go, run the things, green flag, come on then, let's get this over with. Whereas if you introduce a little bit of jeopardy in some way to make it harder to be at your ultimate peak performance, then the better people will still perform better more often, but not all the time. So you'd get enough instances of a top car having a bad day, not quite putting together and having to fight through the field. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor. I'm definitely in favor of mixing up the qualifying order and making qualifying a bit harder. Apologies for the moments where we sounded a bit distracted. Chris was having major tech issues there today, and then to suddenly switch to a solo show where I'm trying to read the reckons and make out what our nuisance and pesky patrons are doing, it can be quite challenging as well. But thank you very much, guys, for joining us in that live chat. I've got a plan. I've got a bit of a plan. I've got to figure out what to do and where to find these old races. But I'm going to sit down and watch an old race with a combination of people. So some older viewers, unfortunately, I'm in that class now, some younger viewers, and we're going to jump on and we're going to, having watched a race from the late 90s, early 2000s, we're then going to do a race review. Now, Chris said we should pretend we're in that time and be like, oh, I wonder how the rest of the season will go. No, we're not going to do that much acting in it. But we are going to follow the general race review format where, you know, we do our big ticket item, what's that big incident that there was the water cooler moment, give out our awards, all the rest of it, you know, not an hour and a half's worth. But I think it would be really interesting. I would love to see how some of the newer fans that came in with that, you know, North American wave with Drive to Survive, I'd love to see their reactions to those old races. And I will try and put out in advance what it is we're watching, and certainly the link to whatever we were watching, because I think I have F1 TV, so I can watch some of the races on there. I'm sure people can find us little links, little links that we'll get those in the show notes so that you can click the link, watch the race, then listen to our little review. And then, of course, we'll have our preview of the Brazilian Grand Prix in the week leading up to that. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Follow me, Spanners Ready, on everything. The links will be in the show notes below. And then go to patreon.com/MissedApex. Support us for a little while. If you enjoy our content and you want us to keep surviving and keep going, we rely on just a churn of people going, yeah, I'll support them on Patreon for a little while. $5 a month for a little while. Join our Patreon community and get an ad-free feed. Until next time, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. And that was a particularly tricky one. Oh, technology, we love you.